And action.
Are we going?
Yeah.
I didn't know. I was jotting down some notes. Start over.
She was jotting notes. Take two.
Hold on. The quality of your, I just want to write this quote down. Connection.
Take two. And action.
Welcome to an Intentional Marriage Podcast. We are your hosts, Kristen and Chad Cottingham, and we are here to discuss all things marriage because we have learned, honey, what? Great marriages don't just happen. You have to be intentional. And you know what I think? I think that means intentional about what? Growing as a person and gaining new skills.
Yeah, that's good.
I think I've been thinking about that this week.
Okay,
and
interesting.
Because it does, I think it kind of segues into what we're talking about today.
Well, Kristen, as I get older, I'm definitely growing as a person. I'm growing outward and bigger and heavier. So does that count?
No, that's not what we're talking about, honey.
Okay.
Internal growth.
Okay.
Not external growth.
Well, you've been waiting and wanting me to have some internal growth for a long time.
Well, often what we say is that we can't focus on changing the other person, even though we tried that for many, many years. We have to focus on growing as our own person because we can't change our spouse. I think we've talked about that.
But what if I don't want to change?
Ooh, well then that's a you problem, and I need to pray about it.
Well,
you need to pray about it.
That becomes an us problem.
It does, yes.
Because you're right, Kristen, and we're making light of this, but this is a really serious topic, and we're going to jump into this today on something, and you've heard a lot about now. It's getting bigger in the concept of emotional awareness, emotional safety, those emotions, and how we bring them into our marriage, and hopefully being aware of them. When you're aware of different things, then we can begin starting to change and work on that. Because, like we say, great marriages don't just happen. You have to be intentional, and that's the individual change you're talking about.
Right. And you just hinted at today, that we want to talk about the emotional safety component in a healthy marriage. Because yes, a healthy marriage is made up of two individuals who are self-aware and willing to grow and develop new skills. Yes, one person can make a difference, but it really, to make significant gains and growth in our marriage, both of us have to be willing to develop new skills, grow as a person. It does require humility. And I think back to our 30 plus year history. And, we were church kids, but we were really kind of clueless.
What's that mean?
Just that we grew up in church and we heard, the Bible says be nice and the Bible says love and
do to others.
Yes, do unto others as you would do unto you. And so we did have a good foundation of what, how you treat people. But I think where we were lacking is that we really didn't have the skills and the nuts and bolts and the how to. And I'm such a processes type person where I was like, okay, you can tell me what, but tell me how. And I remember, and I don't think I've ever even told you this, so you're no.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, disclaimer. But no, I remember it was well into our marriage when I first heard the word emotional safety, or even just the word safe. And we were doing a small group in our home, and it was on the book Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs. And that word came up. Where are you, is there safety in your marriage? And I just remember a big light bulb going off in my mind. I remember sitting on the couch thinking, that's it. I feel like that's what we are missing in our relationship. And so I really began digging into what that really looks like. And it's taken me a very long time. That's just my own personal journey.
Well, let's go back a little bit, Kristen, because, we're we got grandkids now. We got adult kids, so we're kind of at another phase. And if I go back, I kind of grew up in the generation, and it's still prevalent with a lot of men that we don't have emotions. We don't show emotions. We don't cry, maybe at a funeral. Yes. We're tough. We suck it up, and you get through it. And that's how I coped. That's how I learned to cope. That's how I thought everyone coped.
Right.
And in saying that, I was definitely not safe. When we start talking about this word and hearing this, safe, well, Kristen, I don't feel safe. I'm like, why don't you feel safe? What's the matter with you?
Ding, 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 ding.
Why do you feel that way? And just that response right there, it was like Kristen wanted to share her heart or share what was going on or just vent or whatever it was. And I'm just like, what's the matter with you? Why do you feel that way? Well, that's dumb. Stop. Knock it off. I was treating you or expecting you to kind of see and act like me.
Right.
But being a male in an older generation, you just sucked it up.
Right.
And it wasn't good.
Yes. Yeah. And we had this conversation this week, or a different conversation, but how that really has impacted our marriage in the sense of you were just like, what's your problem? Suck it up, move on. And I was a feeler, and I had all of these emotions swirling in my heart that I just didn't know what to do with. And I needed to get them out. But I didn't feel like I could share with you because you're like, why do you think that way? Why do you feel that way? That's dumb. Do it my way. I'm right.
Well, and part of that as well is I didn't grow up with sisters.
That is a good point.
And I had great parents, but they were boy parents.
Yep.
And there was there's some emotions this week. Well, I had no clue. I had no clue about girls' things they went through, an emotional roller coaster. I was clueless.
That is true. That is a good point.
And so I'm just acting like I think I'm supposed to act. And oh boy, look, we always say, I wish I could go back 30 years and get some help, get some instruction, get some, hey, this isn't right. We just kind of navigated and knocked down doors, and I was a bull in a china shop in our marriage. And man, if I wish I knew then what I do now about how to listen to you, how to be safe, how not to try and be a fixer. Oh my goodness, I must have been hard to live with.
Well, let's not go there, but I think...
Well, I guess I can say it. You don't want to. You don't want to admit the truth.
Well, we both were hard to live with in the sense that, hang on. I got a couple thoughts going in my mind. So I think we've laid some groundwork on what isn't emotional safety. And that is, like what you just shared. You were just kind of this, bold, brash individual that had no self-awareness and skills when it comes to emotion. Was that a nice way of saying it?
Yeah, what skills?
Right. And I was so emotionally dysregulated, and I had some issues that I had to deal with that I didn't know how to deal with. Okay.
Some issues?
Many.
Oh, no, and that was... We'll get into this here. Yes. I'll let you do that.
So, but let's establish what emotional safety, and I want to use the word feels like, because it really is a feeling of feeling safe in our marriage, that I can share my authentic self with you, and I trust that you are going to respond in a supportive way. I think that's the simplest of terms that in my understanding.
Yeah, and I like that. And I just want to interject here a little bit. Because in marriage, though, and I hear too many people go, I don't feel in love. So we're not talking that love is a choice. Love is a decision.
Right.
But in that marriage, within that, when there's conversation or an issue or topic, yes, some feelings come out, these emotions.
Yes.
So don't get us wrong here. Love is a decision. Love is a choice. We're not saying you feel out of love. It's
right. It's that feeling that I can be my authentic, true self. I can share freely, and I know you are going to respond in a way that doesn't make me feel stupid, dumb, minimized, rejected, all those things. And so
all the things I kind of just said.
Yes.
You didn't feel safe.
So what I did was I withheld, And so there was this disconnect in our marriage, and that disconnection really came from a lack of communication skills. So once we both worked on, that's where I go back to our opening, phrase or line of saying, we both have to take ownership for personal growth. So I had to say, okay, what is my role in this? And you had to say, what is my role in this? And so once we kind of took ownership and we realized what emotional safety looked like, that we can share freely, we can be our authentic selves. It's this feeling of being on the same team, feeling supported. And also there's the enjoyment factor. Like we just feel comfortable and enjoy each other. And so I think those were missing in our early years due to a lack of communication skills, because really the depth of your connection is really determined by the quality or the development of your communication skills.
Oh, that's good. Say that again.
The depth of our connection is determined by the development of our communication skills. I don't know if I said it exactly the same way, but...
No, but that makes sense. And I just want to, again, I like interjecting because my mind is just spinning. It was because so much good information, Kristen. For those of you that are wondering, what Enneagrams are we?
Oh, we're going there.
Yeah, we are going there because that may help you understand where we're coming. I'm an Enneagram 8.
No.
And some people call 8s 8 holes.
You did not just say that.
I did not. Because
naughty
we're
words.
Bold, brash, our way.
I'm right, you're stupid.
I'm right, you're stupid. And Kristen is a wonderful 9.
Oh, thank you.
She wants to please. And so
I want peace.
She wants peace, and I just say it. So that's kind of how we came in. We didn't know what an 8 or 9 was back then. We didn't know emotional safety was back then.
Right.
I didn't know why you didn't do things how I did them, because my way was always right. I mean, this stuff starts to make sense the older we get. Like, oh my gosh, if we had a do-over. But I wouldn't change a thing because we're in these struggles into figuring out how to communicate. We didn't have these big terms and words.
Right.
I learned I need to be a better listener. You learned I need to tell Chad, I just need you to listen.
Yes.
Not talk. I don't want your opinion. Because I'm a fixer.
Yes.
I was going to fix every problem you had because that's what I did in my life. Fix and move on. So we learned, and it was this game. And it was a game.
A dance.
It was a dance back and forth. You had to communicate earlier, not withhold. I had to not communicate and listen and be authentic, and I hear you, and I see what you're saying. And it wasn't easy for either one of us.
No.
But it's doable.
Yes, absolutely. We, as we always say, we have learned everything the hard way. I feel like we truly do have a PhD in the School of Hard Knocks. We are not licensed, trained professionals, but we are experienced advisors because we have learned all of this through experience. And when you said earlier, man, I wish we could go back. Well, that is the reason and our intention of doing this podcast is to go back and tell our younger selves.
Let's go back and tell you listeners.
Who are in our shoes years ago, hey, A, here's what to do, but B, if we can do it, so can you. So let's really get into the nuts and bolts of what emotional safety, how we can develop emotional safety in our relationship, because there really are 2 roles in this safe space, we'll call it.
Can I just be honest? And you know this, but for our listeners, because of kind of my 8-ness or how I grew up, and I don't like or care for that word emotional. I just
this is what I'm dealing with, folks.
No, so we had this conversation, but yet as we talk through it, I begin realizing, Chad does have some emotions. Not many, but he does. But it's still, so maybe some of you listeners are out there like, I don't like this topic, or it's hard. Yes, some of these are hard, but they're so vital.
Yes.
Every piece of marriage, everything you do is so important.
Yes.
But what I really admire about you, Kristen, is you continue to study, you continue to look up, you continue to research what is going on, and to bring it to our marriage. And hopefully what I'm trying to do is truly listen, truly hear. And I know sometimes it's like beating on a wall, but it's this, again, that dance we're playing. Right. Me realizing, okay, it's just a word. It's not that bad.
Right. And like I reassured you this week, you actually do more than you think. You get it right more often than not, whether you are able to describe the terms and use the right words
and I just,
or
I think
not.
being a man, we don't have emotions. We don't share emotions. So I don't like talking about emotions.
And that's why I sent you the Jenny Allen podcast this week about understanding your emotions.
Untangle your emotions.
Untangle your emotions.
Yeah, I was the only male listener.
Hey, you were in your car. You were all by yourself. It's okay. You're safe.
It was because it is so important. And it's something I lacked. We lacked.
Yes.
And it is so people talking about this now, and they're more aware of it now. And it's okay to talk about emotions. Right. It's okay to talk about trauma, maybe as a kid or a past relationship, because through those things, we've developed certain emotions, certain defenses, certain barriers, boundaries, whatever that is, to protect ourselves.
Right.
And we bring them into relationship, and sometimes they're not, it doesn't go over too well.
Well, and again, I go back to it all depends on if we are willing to grow and develop new skills, because really what we want to talk about when it comes to emotional safety is the communication skills that we need to develop in order to become safe people. And so I'd like to move into that here going forward and talk about the two different roles. And I mean, us sitting here together is a good visual because in communication, it requires two people, a sender of information and a receiver of information, or a speaker and a listener, however you want to, whatever word picture you want to use. I'm thinking for you, it might be helpful if I say the quarterback and the receiver. The one that's passing the ball, the one that's receiving the ball, and the ball is the information we want to communicate. So
you understand I was a quarterback and threw it. I was a teacher that told. I was a coach that instructed. So
you're very good at being the sender.
It was just natural, and
that's a good point.
That's I mean, your background creates
so
what you do.
You're right. You were quite the quarterback in communication. You were sending those missiles of, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Those were really hard passes to catch. But so what I'll say you had to learn was to become a better receiver. And
I didn't have great hands.
Right. So I'd like to talk about the two different responsibilities that each role carries in the fact that, so communication, that's going to determine our connection. We talk about real quick, I just want to touch on this, in that there's transactional communication and then there's heart-to-heart communication.
And the transactional, you're talking about when's the kids' practice, what time will you be home from work, we have to go to your mom's this weekend. It's
just logistics.
It's information.
It's sharing information. It's
transactional.
But really where the connection is made is on that heart-to-heart level where we are sharing vulnerabilities. And that's what we're talking about. It's not just the surface communication. We want to develop communication skills that are going to lead to better connection, where we feel safe, we feel supported, we're able to have conversations where we're not blowing up, we're not shutting down, we're feeling supported and free to just be ourselves. So that's the goal we're after. But there's two different responsibilities in the sense that the speaker has responsibilities and the receiver and the listener has responsibilities, the quarterback and the receiver. So let's talk first about what the speaker's responsibility is in healthy communication, creating this safety. And I would think it's two specific responsibilities. And one is to be authentic, and the second one is to be assertive. And what I mean by that is I am able to communicate what I'm feeling. Because like you mentioned, for so long in our marriage, I had so many things going on in my mind and swirling that I didn't even know what it was that I was feeling. I had anxiety. I struggled with depression. I struggled with anger. I struggled with, not being able to say what I want and need and feel. And so that's a huge component. And that's where you say, I think, where you're talking about getting in touch with our emotions. That's scary. Oh, Chad doesn't like that. But that's really where that comes in, is when I am able to communicate, hey, honey, I am just feeling angst lately, or I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling just disheartened. I'm feeling discouraged. Honestly, I didn't even have that capacity to even know what I was feeling. So there was that, much less then I didn't even know, because I didn't know what I was feeling, I didn't even know what I needed. And so because I wasn't aware and I wasn't assertive, it just kind of opened the door for you to come back and be like, well, let me tell you what you feel and what you need. And I didn't want that. I needed to think it through myself.
Oh, you did?
So okay, so I'll leave that at that, and let's shift over to the receiver or the listener, because there's also responsibilities the listener needs to, the skills that the listener needs to develop. And that really is creating that supportive space and being able to respond appropriately. Yes. And that, we talked about this week too, has a lot of different...
Can I speak to that?
Because one of the things about listening is not interrupting, but go for it, honey. I'm teasing.
I asked.
Yes, I know.
I want to interrupt. No, it's so right, because that's an area I had to work on more, is the listening.
Yes.
And one of it is just to be attentive, to truly, I'm looking at you, I'm eye to eye, I'm nodding, I'm not checking my phone, I'm not distracted, like, okay, are we done yet? It's truly getting at this level with you, giving you time. Now, there may be times where you need to talk, but during time, I've got a meeting coming up in 5 minutes, something else is going on, the kids are screaming, it's not the right time, so I can't give you undivided time.
Yes.
I think it's so important, and that's what I had to do. And then the next thing is bite your tongue. Especially for you men that are fixers, bite your tongue, because my first response is to fix, to change, to share, to blah.
Yes.
Bite your tongue. Because usually what I learned is you already knew what you were feeling, you knew what you were going to do.
Yes.
You just needed to verbalize it.
Yes.
But I would interject so fast. Why don't you just do this?
Yes.
And now all of a sudden you're mad. You just interrupted. I knew that. Well, you think I'm stupid. Next thing you know, instead of feeling safe and secure in the conversation, we're now fighting, angry.
Yes.
Because I wasn't a good listener.
Right. And I'm just chuckling right here because I don't know if you can see or not. I have a few...
old dogs can learn new tricks.
Yeah, well, it goes back to my point that you know this without even, like, okay, but just listen, I'm just interjecting because for those listening, they can't see. I have a few notes sitting in front of me.
I can't read them.
And you can't even read them. And you have already checked off 1, 2, 3 things that I wanted to bring to the forefront of what an active listener, or a good listener does. And
I've been a student of yours for 33 years.
Good. That's true. You know already. So you've already talked about being attentive.
Oh, boy.
Present and engaged. Yes. Another component is awareness. Hey, do I have the capacity right now to listen, to have this conversation? And am I aware of where my spouse is even coming from? Okay, I'm aware that she is just off the rails right now and she just needs to calm down. We're not going to get anywhere in this conversation. So you have that awareness. And then what you also developed was you were able to, instead of jumping in to fix, and that would be withholding advice, because if you notice, I like all the A's: attentive, aware, asking questions. Well, I'm going to come back to that one. Withholding advice. You refrained from trying to fix it, and instead you turned around and you started asking questions, because like you said, I needed to process it, or I already knew what I needed, either one of those to get to where I needed to go, but you just helped by withholding your advice, telling me what to do, and you started just asking questions.
Well, and that didn't come by naturally. I remember, and we're very open and transparent, when you were struggling with those years of depression, and I know we would go to counseling. I even did some individual myself, because I'm like, I don't know how to respond to her. I don't know how to deal with her.
I really was struggling.
I don't even know what to say.
Yes.
I needed help. You needed lots of help.
Yes,
I
both, did.
As a couple, needed help.
Yes.
But I remember the lady told me, well, ask questions. And I was like, okay, instead of telling, I need to slow down. So I remember after our first couple sessions, and I'm trying to be open and authentic and a good listener, and she's sharing some things that are going on. And I'm like, well, how'd that make you feel? I said that first. How'd that make you feel?
Because you were doing what the therapist said.
The therapist said, and I thought, well, this will help because that's what they've been doing with you. And she goes, don't you psychoanalyze me with that stupid stuff. I mean, here, she wants me to be a listener, ask questions, and I am, but you weren't in a good place. No. So it backfired. But it
I was not emotionally safe either. So we both had so much unhealth in each area. Speaker, listener, okay, yes.
Don't psychoanalyze me.
Here he was trying to implement a skill. Which just proves our point. We've come a long way.
Yes.
And
it's an encouragement to those out there listening.
Yes.
You don't give up. You keep trying. Yes. When it is super hard. When your spouse is off the rails. When your husband's not a good listener. You can do it, but you need some tools.
Yes.
Which the counselor helped me say, hey, do this instead.
Yes. So let's talk about the specific skills, or the specific tools, that each person can do, whether you're the speaker, whether you're the listener, which tools are required for each set of skills. And for the speaker, when I'm trying to communicate and be my authentic self, I need to know what I'm feeling and what I need to really make this connection. Now, this isn't always like we have to sit there and go, oh, what am I feeling? What am I needing before we, but it really does. So personally, I have referred to that emotions wheel. And there is an app on my phone that tracks emotions. It'll come up on my phone. It'll say, how are you feeling? It's the How We Feel app. And that really does help me, ground me to say, okay, I am feeling just overwhelmed. And so then the next thing is to be able to share that with you. I need to communicate what I'm feeling and what I need. And we've come up with that acronym LOVE. What do you need? Do I need you to listen? Do I need your opinion? Do I need validation? Or do I need just some encouragement? Or it could stand for empathy. So I have learned to okay, what am I feeling? And then what do I need as I'm coming to Chad with my heart? What am I asking of him? And I'll say,
and there were times when we first started, you would start coming to me and I would say,
yes.
Do you need me to listen?
Yes.
Or do you need me to fix it?
Yes.
So sometimes you have to help each other in the process because it's not normal or natural. So you're trying to share and get that out there. It's in your mind to tell me, or you think I just need Chad to listen, but I didn't know. So I just say, what do you need me to do right now?
That's a good point.
Just listen. Oh, then I was off. I was like, okay, turn my fixer brain off.
Yep.
And just listen.
There you go. Good point. And so I would say, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I just need you to listen. Or I am feeling, confused about this situation at work. What is your opinion? What should I do? And then that gave you permission to give your advice or give your opinion. Or another thing is, I feel like I might have said the wrong thing in that interaction with my friend. Am I crazy for thinking this way? And,
probably.
And I'd say, am I okay here? Which is like, I just need some validation. What do you think? And you'd say, no, I think you're right on track. And honey, it's okay. Anybody in your situation would feel that way.
Or maybe you overreacted. Yes. Maybe you were a little hard on the kids. You're asking it because you're open to the response.
Right.
But it helps me to know what you're looking for so I can truly connect with you.
Yes. And that's where, too, I feel like on the receiver's end is asking those open-ended questions. That's one of the skills or the tools under that, the speaker's or the receiver's responsibility, to ask those clarifying questions, saying, well, tell me a little bit more. Help me understand. I'm not quite sure what you're asking, or I'm not quite sure where you're coming from, to really gain that understanding to where we're on the same page here, And so really at the end of the day and at the end of the conversation, our goal is to feel heard, to feel understood, and to have clarity around the conversation. Like, hey, I was able to be authentic. I was able to bring my heart to you. You knew what you needed from me. So here you walk away going, oh, that was a good conversation. I helped her, I encouraged her, I gave her what she needed, and vice versa. And so at the end of the day, that safety really is our support system where we're operating as a team, we're feeling that we can have meaningful conversations and share freely without criticism, judgment, rejection, defensiveness, and that could be a whole nother podcast. But so it's in the developing of the skills, but again, we go back to we didn't know what they were.
No.
And so I think that just becoming aware where we were and what we didn't have and what we needed gave us this language to be able to create that safety.
Yeah, good stuff. A couple of things I want to share here. Some of you are in need of some authentic conversation.
Yes.
Some transformational. You don't have time. You're not finding time. The kids, your schedules, whatever that is. So on another podcast, we're going to come back and give you some tools or tips or things that helped us to have these things. Because you can't just sit down and have you got screaming kids and they're crying and they're fighting, or you got a ball game, you're driving. It's not the right time, but you know it needs to happen.
Yes,
good point. We don't want to sweep it under the rug. And one of the things that I want to give, because I'm a guy, a survey guy. I'm a 1 to 5. Something, if you're trying some of these things out, these conversations, I would say the next day or later that night, give it a scale 1 to 5. Hey, hon, of our conversation today, how was I as a listener? 1, I was terrible. 5, I was great. Truly rate me. And be open to that. Or how do you think our conversation went? Because again, if you're trying some things new, it's good to see where you're at. I like knowing a score sheet because it gives me something to strive for and do better. So those of you out there like me that like numbers, Kristen likes words.
Yes, that's a good point.
That gave me a visual on where we're at and what work I still needed to do.
And maybe the initial question to even get this conversation started is on a scale of 1 to 5, how safe do you feel in our marriage?
In our conversations, yes. I would say now at a 5. I would say 10 years ago, a 4. I'd say 10 before that, a 3. I'd go back when we started, a 1 is 0.
Right. Well, also though, I'm going to take the blame a little bit too, because we've had these conversations where in the past, where I was so emotionally unaware and not able to manage my emotions, and I was easily, I would easily blow up, where you didn't feel safe with me to share.
It goes both ways.
It does go both ways. So I did have to work both ways, actually, as to becoming more emotionally aware and assertive in my communication. But I also needed to be a better listener, safer, because I would blow up too. I'd be like, he said what? Your boss? What a jerk, da 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 da. And you'd be like, okay, this did not need to go into all of that.
So I learned to...
So you withheld. So
I withheld a lot of emotions. So I just, it's a guy you hold these emotions in. You don't share them.
Right.
Because if I did, you couldn't at that point
couldn't handle it.
And it wasn't good. So
that's when you would come at me with the quote from, was it A Few Good Men? You can't handle the truth. And I'd be like, stop it! Oh, goodness. So,
well, on that note,
I guess we could wrap things up. I guess we told on ourselves enough today.
You can't handle the truth, Kristen. Truth is, it's time to wrap this podcast up.
Goodness. Well, I hope this has been helpful. And, check out our social media pages too. And there will be some more information and maybe just some graphics to help you kind of those are what helps me. I need
Where would they find that?
A visual, like on our Instagram and on our Facebook under Marriage Resource.
There you go.
Our website is marriageresource.us, even though in our book is An Intentional Marriage.
And YouTube and podcast.
So yes, our YouTube, our channel, again, this is our podcast. So hopefully this has been helpful, and in our ramblings, honey, that
what did we talk about?
We said something that's helpful. Yeah. Oh, goodness. But it's all about, our marriage does need that emotional safety. And the more we develop those skills, the stronger our connection is going to be. The more we're able to have better, more meaningful conversations. We're going to feel supported. There's going to be a sense of ease and an enjoyment between the two of us because we're connecting on that heart-to-heart level. And that's where...
Transformation.
Yes. And so, well, on that note, thank you for listening. And we enjoy talking and hoping that we're just helping Chad and Kristen 1.0. We're Chad and Kristen 2.0 now, aren't we, honey? But we still have some growth to go, but...
I think we're 3.3.
Oh, okay. Well, we're moving right along.
53 years of marriage.
Oh, that's good.
Fine, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right, we'll close. Thanks, guys, for listening, and we'll see you next time.